Your signature. Aside from your character itself, it may be the single most important element to define you as an individual. It doesn't just act as a label of who you are, but also speaks to your past, where you've come from, and often brings with it a preceding reputation. It may be a point of pride or a burden you must carry, but amongst many things, what your signature represents is only as significant as the moments that make up your life. Each signature brings a story. Each story is as different as the names they represent in a book each one of us contributes to. Our legacy is not simply a history of ourselves, but of the community that contributed to each of our paths. So as time dissolves our existence and we fade into inevitability, the portrait of our past and the color of our legacy splashes onto the canvas of the lives that we touched along our journey. Last time on One Lane Road, we added a temporary member to the expedition, ran up and into the Oregon Trail history, found ourselves in front of more gates and private property than we'd seen so far, had a small electrical issue with one of the vehicles, and it was an all-around tough couple of days for the team. Imagination brings ideas. Ideas bring movement. Movement brings progress, and progress inspires imagination. As the cycle continued, we found ourselves years from the pioneers, but connected so closely it changed the way we looked at our history. It was difficult. We faced all kinds of obstacles, but this was the first that sent us down the road looking for a clinic.
It's day 20. We are actually headed to Wheatland to gas up, and then we're gonna hit some highway because Kobe's eye is not doing the best, and we're gonna get him to a clinic to check it out. And we've also got to take Kobe's truck in to get the radius arm replaced and get it aligned and maybe change the fluid out in the rig. So this kind of stuff happens. Got to take care of the team, safety first, and then we got to make sure that that our modern day steel wagons can keep getting us down the trail. So we'll keep you posted. Stay tuned. Sounds good, thanks a lot. So we just made an appointment for Kobe at the Wheatland Banner Health Clinic. We're gonna have to putz around town for probably about an hour and a half though, because that's the soonest they had. So we're gonna fuel up and look over the rigs and make sure Kobe gets taken care of, and then sally on forward to Scotts Bluff.
It was a rare occasion that we were in town first thing in the morning, so we took advantage of the situation while we waited for Kobe's appointment. After 3 days of irritation and a 30-minute doctor's visit, the final verdict on Kobe's eye was nothing major was wrong. A little anticlimactic, but we couldn't have asked for a better result. The doctor gave him some drops and sent us back down the road, leaving behind the wild state of Wyoming and on to Nebraska. We were driving down the highway about 15 minutes ago. I was thinking, I think we missed that place that has the ruts in the rock. And for some reason that was just one of the things that I wanted to see while we were out here. And lo and behold, we're in Guernsey, which is where the ruts in the rock is, and Register Rock. So we're gonna head down and check it out and see the site I've been waiting for.
Some of the craziest wagon ruts that we've seen so far. Chris was just scraping it with his fingernail. It's actually pretty soft. So you talk about a few 100,000 people making their way through this. It's the perfect width of a wagon. Wagons are 4 feet wide. by 10 to 12 feet long, depending on how much money you had to purchase one. The coolest set of ruts we've seen. The rest have always been in dirt, and they just look like little hills, but this is just a well-traveled path right along the river.
So I love their names back in the 1800s. Where registered cliffs, and people would carve their names in the side of the cliff as they came through, all like that.
You notice it's the last name.
Yeah.
Real important. They abbreviate their first too.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's all
about your last name. That was Register Rock.
We were faster and more efficient than we had expected. We were gaining a healthy lead on our expedition, so we decided to take some time and give the Ranger and Land Cruiser some love. And in the true spirit of the overland lifestyle, we took our first detour to dip down into Colorado to explore the top of the world.
We're just coming out of Greeley, Colorado. We decided, kind of as a treat to the team, I guess, a vacation from our vacation, that we'd drop down into Colorado and spend some time in Rocky National Park.
There's a funny thing that happens when you detour from a mission. It breaks routine, sways attention, and gives you more time to miss home. We had spent almost 4 weeks on the trail, and the impact of that much time away from the family was starting to creep into the thoughts of our daily life.
Hey, we woke up this morning in Colorado. By 7:30 we were on the road. By about 10:30 we made it to the Wyoming border, and then by, I'd say, noon we were in Nebraska. So we covered 3 sections of states today, which is kind of cool.
That's the thing. I think Oregon was a desirable place for a reason. The further east we get into the Midwest, the flatter it gets. It holds its own beauty for sure. When you've got all these other beautiful things to compare it to, it's kind of slowly becoming less climactic towards the end.
Been kind of a somber day though. I was having some issues with the group that I didn't vocalize. I should have, and finally did, in not so much of a good verbal, non-verbal way. So we had a powwow, and I'm hoping things get back to normal tomorrow. Kind of a somber mood tonight because of it, and I feel like a jackass, but
We've had some attitude problems in the group. Fortunately, we're all adults enough to realize when we need to about face and kind of ditch the attitude. And so I think we're doing good right now. We're all on the same page, and we're anxious to see the rest of Nebraska.
We were back on the trail and making our way east through the Midwestern states on our journey. The mileage of Nebraska was one of the longest on our journey, but we expected fast miles due to the end of the Rocky Mountains and the start of the Plain States.
So we're in Chimney Rock Cemetery, which is used back in pioneer days and currently too. So some of the headstones we've seen are newer, but they date back to the late 1800s. It's interesting. I don't see any old gravestones, but it is an old pioneer cemetery right at the base of Chimney Rock. So.
So we're at Fort McPherson National Cemetery, and we're pretty awestruck by all the graves here. The plaque behind me, there's an address by President Lincoln. It's dated 1863, so it's crazy to think that when all the wagon trains were headed west in search of Oregon, President Lincoln was president.
Yeah, it's just crazy to be here. Just knowing that this, in an interesting sense, was hallowed ground that thousands of people fought for our freedom. Kind of humbling to stand here and look at all those men that died fighting for that.
Which I think is a very cool thing to do.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
We'd spent a total of 5 days in Nebraska, and no other state tested the team more than this one. We had anticipated the terrain, the gear, and even those unforeseeables, but the one thing that we didn't take into consideration was each other. We had limited space, 100-degree weather, and 5 days of the same terrain. There was nothing challenging our team, and living within arm's reach of each other for the last month was beginning to take its toll. We were doing our best to hold it all together, but if something didn't change quickly, we were on the fast track to killing each other and never seeing the end of this trip.
Since we got into Nebraska, the whole morale kind of changed, if I'm being honest. We went from awesome terrain to hot weather, and as soon as we crossed Nebraska, there's been nothing exciting. I don't like that feeling.
I feel like Steve gets frustrated and we get frustrated at him because he's always the last one in the car. We're always waiting on him. He always forgets his stuff and has to go back into the store, or forgets to go pee and has to go back in the store.
At this point in the trip, I was hoping for a lot more professionalism from everybody. It just seems kind of like it's not turned into a frat party, but just people kind of settled into a groove and they stopped doing the little stuff, the little parts of their jobs that they used to do at the beginning of the trip. And it gets annoying.
Chris is kind of whiny. I figured he would be the least whiny out of everybody, but he's the one that requires the most space and the most walking on eggshells around him. So.
Unfortunately, Nebraska so far, I would say Nebraska is my least favorite state. It's a bunch of farmlands, which I respect, honestly. A huge part of me wishes that I lived in the days where everyone was a farmer.
I think that we're all getting a little testy and kind of irritable with each other.
I guess these are what makes a team. You don't always get along. You don't always see eye to eye, and stuff annoys you. You spend this much time with anybody in these close quarters, and you're bound to get annoyed.
Not coming loose, it's just complacent. People are bored. Absolutely bored. There's no challenging trails that we've come across in Nebraska. I don't hate Nebraska. Nebraska's alright.
Now we're like, oh, another cornfield. Oh, same dirt road we've been on for 2 days. Day 26, I miss my family. I think we're 50 miles away from Kansas, 60 miles away.
And although it wasn't the way we planned on it, I'm glad it went the way it went, because I feel like this is a good foot in the door to future expeditions, and it gave us a good idea of how things play out when you're out on the trail.
Yeah. But it's all good. We're just loving life and living the sticky life. So.
There you go. You ready? I'm ready.
Talk about your
Hello,
day.
my name is Slogaf Borgish, and I am here to talk about the OTO and the off-roading that they do is very
Oh, that's Italian.
That's Italian.
Dang it.
What are you doing, Jay? You know, just setting up the things, contemplating whether or not to actually put these out because it's so windy. I'm afraid it's gonna blow the whole tent over, possibly the car. We could float away like Alice in Wonderland or
Yes.
Dorothy and Oz, whatever story you prefer. But it could happen, all because of these little rods.
You never know.
You never know.